What's going on, everybody? Matt Malatesta here, VYPE Media, the Coach's Corner, the new head coach at College Park, Kyle Coates. Coach, welcome to Houston. We're excited to have you. Just talk about, what was it about College Park that really piqued your interest?
It's kind of like I've said in some other interviews, but really when I looked at the place as a whole, it reminds me a lot of where I'm from, Georgetown. I got an 8-month-old son, Calvin. My wife Lauren and I were thinking about trying to find some place to settle down. And so when we saw College Park and we saw this opportunity come open, I wanted to be a head coach. It seemed like a great opportunity. I've seen that they've had a lot of success over the past couple of years, which is a credit to Coach Madison. And so when that opening came, I said, that's a good one I got to jump at.
Talk about your background. You're coming off a state championship on the staff at DeSoto, but man, you got really kind of a cool background as it relates to playing in college and coaching in college. Just talk about what you kind of picked up at each one of your stops.
Well, so I started off at Trinity University. I graduated from Georgetown back in 2006. So I'm still, in the coaching terms, relatively young. But, I played at Trinity from 2006 to 2009, graduated in 2010. I actually took a year off trying to decide what I really wanted to do because I was a marketing major. I was also in sports management, so kind of a double major deal. But I ended up figuring out probably August, September on a beach in New Zealand where I was living for 6 months. And so from there, I sent out about 120 emails. And I was not one of the stories where, everybody responded back to me. I had 3 responses. One of them was Jesse Burleson at Hardin-Simmons. It was like, hey, man, if you want to learn a lot of football and work a lot of hours and not get paid very much, is the thing for you. I said, all right, let's do it. So I went down there in March of 2011 and I GA'd for a year. Was fortunate enough to get my master's, everything very quick, and then got hired back at Trinity. So I actually got to work for my head coach in college that I played for. So it was cool to see kind of that curtain pulled back and see that side of things. And being a guy that played for him, he threw a lot on me early on. The running joke with the guys in the staff was, he'd give me a hard time if I didn't do something right. Coach, you had one job. And they'd be like, they'd look at me because they knew how much that mattered. Coach, you gave me a lot to do, but yeah, my one job, sure. So I got to learn from that side of things. 2012 was at Trinity and then got hired back at Hardin-Simmons, which, I always took a lot of pride in because Coach Burleson said that, he tried to recruit me out of high school and I didn't want to go there. I wanted to go to San Antonio. And so the fact that he would hire me back after just GAing for him for essentially 9 months meant a lot to me. But I went back there, special teams coordinator for 4 years. I take a lot of pride in the fact that my first game as a special teams coordinator, we did not do very good on special teams. We played up at Willamette. First kickoff was run back for a touchdown. Third kickoff was run back for a touchdown. I think we had 2 punts blocked that game. And so that was at a 24 years old as a special teams coordinator. His exact words, Kyle, I'm not going to tell you, this is probably one of the worst special teams games I've ever seen. I said, yes, sir, I understand. So learned pretty fast, what not to do, but took a lot of pride in special teams. We kind of built an identity after that. And by the time we left in 2017, my last year, we were #1 in the country of all divisions in kickoff return. We were #1 in Division III in punt as far as net average. We had a really good punter. And over those 4 years, we ended up having 7 special teams All-Americans. And so took a lot of pride in that. Learned, obviously, there's a whole nother third of the game in that aspect of it that I started to take a lot of pride in. But also working with Zach Wilkerson, who I still, to this day, as a D3 coordinator, I don't know how he's not in a Division I school by now. He's very comfortable. Jesse takes really good care of him, but he's the smartest defensive coach I've ever been around. Super sharp. I was going to say, and from there, we went on to East Texas Baptist for a very brief stint. I was hired by Scotty Walden and then called by Scotty Walden the next day saying that he was going to Southern Miss. And so had the bags packed, was on my way to ETBU, and basically, hey, you have a job, but I don't know if you have a job here because I'm moving on. So I actually went to ETBU. We had a mega camp where the University of Texas came out, and that's actually where I met Craig Niver. Niver had played at Hardin-Simmons, so that was kind of our connection there. And, from then on out, it kind of fostered a really good relationship. I went and worked 2 or 3 camps that summer. And I said, hey, man, I grew up in Austin. I grew up in the Georgetown area. if you ever have an opening GA spot, this is my last year to do it. So I'm all in. And he's like, well, you need a 3.0. I was like, good. I had a 3.8. And he's like, okay, well, you need to pass this test with the 3.10. I took the test 2 days later and got a 3.20. So I went there to actually get my doctorate in kinesiology because I already had my master's. I was thinking I'll be a coach doctor or whatever. And so when I showed up, they turned the paperwork in, and I was actually, I want to say, a month and a half too old to be a GA. So, the gift and the curse of that. One, I quit a really good job as a defensive coordinator at ETBU. I'd come all the way back to Austin. I moved back in with my parents at 29 years old just to find out basically I couldn't do what I signed up to do.
Oh, wow.
But Coach Orlando, Coach Niver took really good care of me, even though I'd only been there for a month. They moved me into a quote unquote analyst role. And then from there, when Trey Haverty left to go to SMU as the safeties coach, I moved into the safeties analyst role. And so I worked with Niver for the 3 years I was there with him. That last year, I got to see both staffs. So I got to see Todd Orlando, who was very 3-4 multiple, the Dave Aranda system, but he takes a little bit more risk than Dave does. We had a lot of scheme.
Okay, so then, talk about your time at DeSoto, but with that, like, it was short-lived, but just talk about, what it was like to see that.
First off, amazing kids. I mean, some of my favorite kids I've ever coached, just because, their favorite thing to do as they were coming down the halls was get to the field house as fast as possible. Let's talk ball. Like, what are we going to do this week? Jamarian Ravenel, who's going to, we call him the Honey Badger. He's going to UTPB. Still one of my favorite kids to coach. Brandon Booker. There's tons of big names, big personalities, but just great kids. They love football. They love, being coached hard, being pushed. And I think Coach Mathis has his thumb right on the pulse of that program, in the sense of, sometimes I was like, man, we got some chaos going on right now. And he had it in line. He knew exactly what was rolling. Even if he didn't want to tell me the schedule, hey, this is what we're doing, Coach, we're rolling. And so, man, it was great to kind of see like an elite program of that stature and how he could push everything forward.
So talk about now with, you coming to College Park, what is the stamp you're wanting to put on your own program, here at College Park?
Well, and this is one of the things I've taken from Hardin Simmons. Jesse was really big on the three things you always control as a player: is how tough you are, how disciplined you play, and then how much effort you play with. And so that's kind of the three pillars that we're going to build our program on: toughness, discipline, and effort. I want our kids to be, if we're going out there and the opposing team thinks that, hey, man, those are a bunch of sevens out there, great, we're going to play like nines. We're going to give you everything that we got day in, day out, until that last whistle blows and it's 0-0-0 on the clock.
Okay, so you're on that beach. I can't remember what you said, Thailand or somewhere crazy.
New Zealand.
What was it that said, hey, I need to stay with this and do coaching?
I was reading, so Bobby Bowden's still probably to this day one of my favorite coaches of all time. Fair but not equal. That was his big deal. Well, so I was reading a book called A Calling to Coach. And, it looked at his, spiritual journey, but along with like what got him into coaching. And at 24 years old, right around the age I was about to be, he said he had a coach reach out to him and said, hey, like, I always thought you'd be good at like coaching, Bobby. Like, you're a great player. Men look up to you. Like, you're a leader of men. That's what a coach is. This is a calling. This isn't just a profession. And I was literally sitting there and I read that part and I'm like, man. And Coach Paul Mahalik, who's the defensive coordinator at Trinity, literally said those words to me not probably 6 months before I left. And he said, man, I just think you're going to be a coach, because there's something about you. Like, you played so hard. Kids looked up to you. The joke was I got the Tiger Award. My buddies always called that the Rudy Award because I was the shortest linebacker on the field at all times.
Well, okay. And then, finally talk about X's and O's are great. Wins and losses are great. What are you trying to instill in these guys as they come through the program from, ninth grade to seniors? Well,
so those three kind of pillars, I'll hit back on those real quick. I don't think that stops on the game field. I think that kind of takes you into life. When I brought it up the first day I really got to talk to the team, I hit on those real quick. Hey, toughness, discipline, effort. Everybody think about some time, in your life that you've gone through something that's been difficult. Like, did you just get through it because like, oh, I just woke up the next morning and it was different? No, like, you had to be tough, right? a lot of times, like if you're in a struggling situation with grades or with a relationship or what have you, like if you don't have discipline to get yourself out of that situation, you're going to find yourself in a worse situation. And ultimately, it comes back to like effort. You know, how much can you put into your relationships, into your schoolwork, into what you want to ultimately be as a football player? You know, if you're not putting anything into it, then you're putting your efforts in somewhere else, and it's usually not a good thing. So I want our kids to understand outside of the X's O's, outside of the wins and losses, one, that we care about them first and foremost, because I truly believe it becomes cliche at times, but kids don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. I mean, if you
Yeah.
truly pour into people, that's when you get the most out of them. And I think that's where I really was able to connect with a lot of those DeSoto kids. Like at the end of the day, none of you guys look like me, but I love you because you love this game. You love what it stands for. You love what it can give you in life. And so trying to pour into kids and that mindset, I think, is what's my greatest calling in coaching. That's what I love about this. I mean, the getting to be around kids all the time, coaching the X's and O's. Like I love football more than anything else, but I'm in this business for relationships.
Just kind of following you on Twitter and stuff, great energy, number one, but number two, you're dialed into what kids are looking for, how they communicate, how they consume media. I can definitely see that you are that guy that's kind of, with your media background or marketing background, how have you been able to use that in propelling your career?
Well, so it was one of the side hustle, side gigs that I had when I was at Texas. Like I was all into the graphics. I've always been really into drawing. It's something that just kind of sets my mind at ease. Probably to the point my wife gets tired of it because we'll be watching a movie. I'm like, I'm not doing this anymore. I'm just gonna draw. A
Right.
lot of that's like I'll draw our kids. I'll draw a football play. I'll draw all the stuff they like with their head, like the head pictures, whatever, face shots or whatever. And so that type of deal, but also really just like it's about exposure. It's about getting your kids out there. And I think a lot of times, like just hitting retweet or like on a kid's post, that's one thing. But like when you really give a kid a shout out, when you pour into them in a digital age where you're actually sitting there like, man, I'm so proud of you. Brandon Booker was at Baylor this last weekend. I know Matt Pallage really well. We clinicked together for basically the entire spring of 2021.
Wow.
So I said, hey, you make sure that Matt Pallage knows you're his top recruit. He needs to sign you right now.
Yeah.
Something as simple as that.
Right.
Brandon texted me later. He's like, man, coach, I appreciate you saying that.
Yeah. Well, all right, man. We're excited to have you here in Houston. Talent coach, the new head coach at College Park's got a good ring to it. Watch out for the Cavs coming up. We'll come check out a lot in the spring and then see how we do in the Conroe ISD district. This is Matt with VYPE. We'll see y'all at the games.